Well, hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you for joining me again if you've watched some of my other videos. Today I'm here with all natural lighting instead of that lamp back there. Anyway, this is something I'm a little late to the party with, but I wanted to do it anyway, despite the fact that it's already March of this year. I want to do a video covering a couple of my top picks for my favorite games of 2013, as well as a couple of honorable mentions. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. We're going to go by chronological release last year. So we'll be starting with Tomb Raider for the 360. This is the reboot of the series after several games starting all the way back in, I think, 1996 was when the first one dropped. I've been a fan pretty much ever since. And in a way, this game kind of violates one of my pretty hardcore rules in gaming, which is I don't like reboots, remasters, remakes. I don't really care much for that idea. It's like a series, if it gets to a point where it's kind of lost its steam and run its course, just be done with it. Shut it down. Whether it was one game or 12 or 5,000, it doesn't matter. If it's no longer working, just end it and go on. But it's a big trend these days to remake games or release like HD remasters for a new generation. And every once in a while I find one that just works for me. Well, Tomb Raider was one of those that worked. Once I saw the artwork, some of the early gameplay, and then eventually the trailers showing how it was going to be, I thought, yeah, I can get into this. I can give it my blessing. Not that that really matters much, but for me it does. As the consumer who's going to buy it or not, if it looks good enough to me, I'll give it a go. And I was really impressed with it. If I had to give it any kind of a complaint, it's that the words Tomb Raider don't really apply all that much. Raiding tombs in this game is sort of a secret. It's sort of like a bonus thing, and if you didn't ever raid any of the tombs in the game, it doesn't affect the gameplay / ending of the game. It's just kind of thrown in there as maybe like a tip of the cap to those of us who've been around for a while. The game itself was really focused on the story and the rebirth of this character. And the gameplay was all about basically stealth / shooting mechanics, which was fine. I think I probably played on easy. I play a lot of today's games on the easy level. I'm not the greatest gamer in the world. You're going to hear that a lot in my videos. To me, it's not about the challenge and the accomplishment of beating a tough game and redoing something over and over again. For me, it's about the story, and I want to be able to get my money's worth out of it. I want to see what the story is and to get to the end of the game. So if that means I have to cheat, as in cheat codes or cheat devices, I've done that since PlayStation. I've done it since Super Nintendo. So sue me if you don't like it. I understand that. If you don't condone it, that's fine. I respect that. But for me, that's what works. So I played this game on easy. I didn't find it to be all that difficult. I found it to be satisfying to get through parts. If I had to retry them a few times, whatever. Point was, by the time I got to the end of it, I was very, very excited for this remake of Tomb Raider and the new story behind Lara Croft. Best thing I can say is just check it out if you are a fan of the old series, or just go check out some gameplay of this and give it a shot yourself. But that was the first big game of the year for me. I pre-ordered it on the 360, but for the rest of my top games of last year, you're not going to see another 360 game until the honorable mentions, because I bought a PS3 a year before and sat on it for a year and never opened it, never did anything with it. But because of the next couple of games, I had to bust it open. And if you're familiar with the bigger titles of last year, then you should probably have no trouble in guessing that the next game on my list is The Last of Us. This was the big Naughty Dog game that came out, and as a person who, like I said, I had just opened my PS3 a few months before this came out, I had not really had any chance to experience Uncharted. I have all three. In fact, my PS3 was the Uncharted 3 bundle. But my previous Naughty Dog experiences were, Jak and Daxter and Crash Bandicoot all the way back in the PS1. So this was my first chance to see what they did as far as like storytelling was concerned. And I can hear 1,000 eyes rolling, because this game here seems to polarize people more than any other game this last year. People either love it or they hate it. They despise it. I can't believe how many people just outright despise this game. I thought it was amazing. It was a great take on the whole zombie/undead, even though nobody in the game was really undead. They were infected with spores. It's complicated. I couldn't do a very good justifiable job of explaining it. But it was just great with dealing with those kind of undead enemies, and it had the stealth and shooting mechanics, excuse me, as pretty much like Tomb Raider did, but done in a different way. But the highlight of the game, for me, and I think for most people, is the story. If you don't become attached to these characters by the end of the game in some way, if you don't feel some empathy towards them, if you don't get the feels for them, then, in my opinion, there's something wrong deep inside of you. It's just a great game. It was a great story. It was great characters that I, fell in love with and wanted to know what was happening. And in the end, spoilers, don't listen if you haven't played it and you want to. I'm not going to give away the plot details, but I'm just going to say it's not a happy ending. It's not the warm, fuzzy feelings kind of ending. And that's kind of refreshing in games. Plus, I think it opens the door for, even though I'm not 100% sure I like this, but it opens the door for the sequels and all that other stuff, which includes the recent DLC, the Left Behind DLC that I played that was really good. But apparently it's going to be the only single-player DLC. And since, foreshadowing my thoughts towards 2014 that I may have in this video or not, but since I'm probably not going to ever have any of the new consoles, I'll never get to see anything more from this story, other than this stupid movie that I just heard they're doing. Thoughts on that at another time. Anyway, Last of Us, amazing, loved it. No complaints. Love Naughty Dog. Love what they're doing. And their game was this close from being my top game of 2014. But that's going to be the next game of the 4 that I've picked as my favorites for 2014. And that's Grand Theft Auto 5 / Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Grand Theft Auto series. Didn't like the PS1 games. But once Grand Theft Auto 3 dropped on the PlayStation 2, I was hooked. Because one thing I have loved ever since I played, I believe it was the first Twisted Metal, the level called Suburbia. It was just like a big urban neighborhood, and probably like Los Angeles. It looked kind of like LA. And just driving around while my other friends were driving around, and we weren't even paying attention to shooting each other. It was just massive. And that was PlayStation 1. When Grand Theft Auto 3 hit on the PS2, it just took it to a whole nother level. And not only just a big world to drive around in, but you could actually get out and interact. And of course, it's reminiscent of like Driver and Driver 2, but Grand Theft Auto 3 did what those other couple of games and the previous GTAs were trying to do. It did it on a grand scale. And then you had Vice City, and then you had San Andreas, and then you had the Vice City stories and Liberty City stories. I haven't played the stories games because they were PSP at first, but I own the PS2 versions. San Andreas was my favorite game up until this one. San Andreas was amazing, and I loved its setting. But Grand Theft Auto 4 I got on the 360, and I wasn't really all that impressed. It felt really clunky to me. But GTA 5 is everything I could ever want. Huge open world, all open from the beginning. Very interesting story, amazing characters. It's kind of getting forgotten now with all the other games in the online experience. But it was really, really amazing. Uh, and then the online experience came along and took away my life for about 3 months. From around early November until the end of January of this year, I was playing this almost every night with some of my friends from work. And if they hadn't kind of decided they wanted to do other games and get out of this for a while, I'd probably still be playing this every night. It's that amazing. That's why it's it's the third game on my list for 2014, but this is my game of the year because it just gave me more for my money than anything else did this year. So now it's going to kind of end on an anticlimax, and it's unfortunate for the next game that it's going to fall on it in this way. But this was number 4, my fourth and final top games of 2014 that I played and completed. Beyond Two Souls, the new game from David Cage and Quantic Dream. They were the people who brought us Heavy Rain before it, which I have. Indigo Prophecy, which I have, and Omicron the Nomad Soul way back, which I also have. But this was kind of like the best of all those games to me. A lot of people will say Heavy Rain because it didn't deal with anything supernatural or bizarre out there. This one does. I'm not going to explain the story on this one. What needs to be explained to most people on this game is that it's not a game. A lot of people will say it's an interactive movie. A lot of people will say it's nothing but QuickTime events. And a lot of that kind of stuff is true. And if you don't like that, steer clear. I don't mind it. In fact, it's better for a guy like me who has issues with games that get too complicated and get too hard and I can't get through them and then I get frustrated and I go do something else. I like a game experience that takes me through that story, as I mentioned, and lets me get involved with these characters, and the characters in this one are really amazing. I kind of fell in love with Ellen Page in this one. I was indifferent to her as an actress before, but now I really would like to see more of her movies. And her character in that game, Jodie, I guess it's that whole thing where people get a little too attached to characters in video games. I know that she's not real, but I wanted her to be real. I would have liked to have known this character and kind of helped her through her journey in life. It probably would have got me killed, but... So those are my top 4 games of the year. Tomb Raider, the reboot, worth it. The Last of Us, amazing. GTA 5 and GTA Online, dominated 3 months of my life. 4, actually, because it came out in September and I beat the game. In fact, I squeezed Beyond Two Souls in between the story of GTA 5 and the online mode. And then, of course, Beyond Two Souls. But I wanted to mention 2 honorable mention games. I mentioned these because I haven't completed them. And somebody may want to know why the second one wasn't mentioned, but it's because I didn't beat it. But my first honorable mention is Dead Island Riptide. Whoa, I know. Dead Island. Another polarizing game. People either love it or they hate it. I got zapped by some glitches in this one, but never got affected by them in the first game. Finished the first game and really enjoyed it, so I had to come back for the sequel. And I hope to complete it at some point. I'm probably a little more than halfway through. I really like it, and I'm looking forward to Dying Light. And then my other honorable mention is, of course, Bioshock Infinite. Had I not picked this up recently and given it a shot right before the end of the year, I probably wouldn't have included it. I didn't buy it at the beginning of the year. I didn't buy it because I haven't completed or finished either of the first 2 Bioshocks. But knowing that you don't have to, kind of, suggested to me that I should give this one a try and play it and see. I got started playing it probably not very far into it, but I'm really impressed with it, and I want to play it more. So those are my honorable mentions. I had lots of other games I played last year. Of course, I'd be remiss not to mention The Wolf Among Us started last year, and Season 2 of The Walking Dead, plus the 400 Days DLC for that. I'm a big Telltale Games fan. I love those new games, and I'm enjoying the road on both of those, waiting eagerly for new installments. So those would be mentions as well. I don't think I'm going to have time to talk about 2014 and what it's going to mean for me in gaming, so I'll make that another video for another time. So I guess that's about it. Anybody has anything to say, you want to mention your favorite games, if somebody watches this all the way through, comment down below and tell me what you enjoyed in 2013, and I'll see you next time.